Thank you, Comrade Pule. Welcome to you all, and thank you for being patient. And I guess we're here to talk about the ANC's role in the forthcoming local government elections. And these elections, as we all know, are taking place nearly 2.5 years since the ANC was given a clear mandate by the 54th Conference to renew and to rebuild itself. But it was also given a mandate to end state capture and fight corruption and to restore the economy to sustainable growth. Significant progress, I'd like to say, has been made at national level to give effect to this mandate that we were given. And even in the midst of COVID-19, we have made progress. The local government elections are an opportunity to extend the efforts that we've been making at national level to the local level. In launching our manifesto on Monday, we outlined some of the areas of progress since 2019 national and provincial elections. And these areas of progress have included economic reforms of a structural nature. They've also included fighting corruption and rebuilding public institutions. But they've also, in the course of dealing with COVID, we've also had to provide relief to businesses, to workers, to households and ordinary people in our response to COVID-19. And we've also, during this very difficult period, provided opportunities through public employment programs of a historic nature, something that we've never really done before to the good effect that it was done in our country. Importantly, the renewal of the ANC itself was an important part of the mandate that we were given. This has required that we confront corruption, not only within society, but within our own ranks as a movement. The implementation of the 54th National Conference resolutions on ANC members charged or implicated in corruption has been challenging. But we have largely succeeded in meeting the directives of the conference as it was given in 2017. We raise these issues in preparation for the local government elections because it is important for us to demonstrate to the people of South Africa that we are indeed making progress in delivering on the mandate that we were given just over 2 years ago, and that we can indeed deliver on the commitments that we were also given, and what commitments we are also making in terms of the manifesto. While the challenges in local government are numerous, and there are many of them, the fundamental reality is that the ANC has made the lives of South Africans better in more ways than one. This is borne out in the data that is collected by Statistics South Africa on issues such as the provision of electricity, of water, sanitation, housing, and other social infrastructure, as well as by the advances that have been made in the provision of health care, of education. It is also borne out by the life that our people live themselves, their own life experiences. But I must say that these achievements are diminished by failures in providing services at an appropriate level of quality and reliability. They are undermined by poor maintenance of infrastructure, inadequate planning, shortage of skills, and mismanagement of resources. These problems are aggravated by corruption, as well as by nepotism, which not only diverts important resources or funds meant for development, but also degrades the institutions responsible for driving development. The ANC is prepared to accept its share of responsibility for both the achievements as well as the shortcomings in the municipalities that we have led. We are serious about fixing our mistakes that we have admitted. Our manifesto outlines the priorities for the ANC at local government level for the next 5 years. For the purposes of this brief introduction, I wish to highlight just 2 of these. The first one is the necessity of having the right people in place to run municipalities, not only as councillors, but also as officials. Secondly, the vital role of local government in creating employment and enabling people to start and expand their own businesses. On the first issue, the selection of ANC candidates for these local government elections is an important marker and moment for the renewal of our movement. For the first time, the selection of candidates has been overseen by an electoral committee headed by former ANC Deputy President Comrade Kgalema Motlanthe. This electoral committee operates separately from the structures of the organization and is responsible for ensuring that there is a fair process and that the selection of candidates is based on integrity and capability, and that it is not just based on popularity, on how somebody can dance or sing or speak at the top of their voice. We have involved communities in the identification of candidates, which is a first in our own organization and I guess in the country as well. Through this, we have broadened the process beyond our own ANC structures or branches so that the residents of the community can indicate which individuals they have the greatest confidence in to serve their interests. The process of selecting candidates was not without its own difficulties, I must say. There were several disputes about the process. There were allegations of undue interference, and isolated acts of violence and intimidation did happen. However, on the whole, the process has produced a good cohort of ANC local government candidates with a mixture of experience and youth. A quarter of our candidates are young people who are full of energy, full of verve, and full of ideas. And there is also around 46% of those candidates who are women, which is just short of our goal of a minimum of 50% representation of women. Women who are in the majority in as far as our population statistics go, and we want them to play a prominent role in our local governance. We have learned a lot from this process, and we will continue to improve our candidate selection process, and we will also take time to deal with the lapses and shortcomings that revealed themselves. To continue our efforts to put the right people in positions of responsibility, we are implementing a rigorous process of vetting and interviewing those who are selected as mayoral candidates. We have already used this process to good effect in recent months to fill some vacant positions that occurred. With respect to the second issue, our biggest challenge and our central task at this moment is the creation of jobs and sustainable livelihoods for the 12 million people in our country who are unemployed. We are therefore working to harness all the resources and capabilities of the provincial and local sphere of government to support investment at local level and to make sure that we support small and medium enterprises so that they can create jobs. At local level, this means we want to get the basics right to ensure a reliable supply of electricity, water, and municipal services to businesses and households alike, having proper billing and revenue collection systems in place, managing municipal finances properly, and maintaining roads and other infrastructure in the locality. It also requires that we remove the constraints and red tape on small and informal businesses, particularly in townships and rural areas where these constraints abound. That is why we say in our manifesto that we will amend restrictive bylaws on trading, land use, urban production, and other regulations that prevent people from earning a decent living. We will also reduce or remove the license fees that many small and informal businesses have to pay in order to ply their trade. Wherever I go, I keep interfacing with small and medium enterprises, and they complain about the fees and the permit fees that they have to pay when they are capital constrained. Through the district development model, we are successfully bringing all three spheres of government together to plan better, to budget better, and to monitor implementation of our programs. We are creating a value chain that is going to make sure that things get done better and that we implement what we have decided. And we will use this district development model to enable municipalities to unlock economic potential of each district to ensure that there is acceleration of development, food security, skills development, and to support local industries, all this with a view of creating more and more jobs. As the ANC, we go into this election well aware of both the challenges that people confront at local level and of our own weaknesses and shortcomings as a movement. We are firmly committed to address both these challenges, working to build a better, ethical, and more capable ANC with the will and the means to work with all South Africans to improve their lives. This is a turnaround moment for the African National Congress. We understand the frustration and the anger of many communities who have heard the call of South Africans for the ANC to do more and to do better in serving the people of our country. Over the last 2 years, we have been hard at work to answer this call. In the weeks, months, and years ahead, South Africans will definitely witness and experience the ANC's sincerity, determination, and ability to meet their needs. We are serious and we are ready to serve the people of South Africa. Thank you.
Okay, just so broadcasters are clear how we go. So if we take questions from the particular broadcast house, we take their questions, the President answers them. and then we move to the next broadcast house, the President answers them. Then we move to the third one. Are we clear on that one? Okay.
Are we able to do, let's say the President is answering, are we able to do a quick follow-up? In case
that's fine, that's okay. But that specific broadcast house, so it's your follow-up. So for instance, Braden can't have a follow-up on your question.
Well, sometimes he may see something that is interesting.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Let's see. Let's see how it goes. Okay, Braden.
Or shocking.
Okay. Yes, they've got microphones. Where's the other one for them? Okay, he's giving you one. But Leo, do I need a microphone when this?
Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead, brother. Okay, thank you. Thanks, brother. Good evening, Mr. President. Dan Moyane here from eNCA. Just a couple of quick questions. Firstly, it's a broad one in relation.
You might want to take it off so that I can hear properly.
Yes.
That's right.
Thank you. On the manifesto, I've got a broad question to ask first. Judging by the performance of the ANC in the last local government elections in 2016, when you really suffered the major electoral defeat, losing Nelson Mandela Bay at the time, losing control of Tshwane and Johannesburg. What is it in this manifesto, you've called it a plan when you presented it in Pretoria, that will ascertain that at least you regain control of these and that it will be believable enough for people to vote for you again in this particular plan? Because while I understand you say there's progress since the last general election, which happened in 2019, I'm just looking at local government election to local government election. How will you measure this progress? The second question is about the Digital Vibes contract. You referred to the fight that you say you are leading against corruption. You are promising voters that there'll be more done, particularly at local government. I'm sure when people are hearing that, they will look forward to more clean audits. I mean, year in after year in, the Auditor General paints a bleak picture of accountability at the local government level. And even the last financial year, the numbers speak for themselves. It's an appalling performance at local government level. So if you are that focused on fighting corruption, why is it that you don't learn from the past as the ANC? You keep on putting individuals into positions. They were implicated before. I mean, Dr. Zweli Mkhize's name had come up before when he was still in KwaZulu-Natal as a premier there, but also when he was Treasurer General of the ANC between 2012 and 2017. But then you still gave him a very important role in cabinet as health minister and allowed this whole thing to go. Why can't you learn from those mistakes and then prove to South Africans that in the local government elections, when you select the new mayors and other councillors, at least you'll bear that in mind? And finally, it's a current issue. I'd like to hear your view. The delay or let me say the yet another extension of the Zondo Commission of State Capture Inquiry is number 5. It's number 3 this year alone, that extension. Yes, the court found that it would be unreasonable, the Pretoria High Court today, not to give the extension. And many people might understand that he could not have put together the report for you for tomorrow, for example, which was the initial deadline. But what does it all mean? Will we ever see the end of it? Because I'm asking you, as the president, because you're also the president of the Republic, the recommendations will come to your desk for you to implement. Surely you must be looking forward to this to end soon. Then you are able to act and prove to South Africa and the rest of Africa and the continent that you are serious about fighting corruption. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, Dan. What is different that we can say to our people? Our people have the same needs, same aspirations now as they have had in the last election. And we are now going to them and say, in 2016, a number of them did not vote for us because they were appalled at the state capture phenomenon, the corruption that they saw rampant, and less action against corruption, less accountability. Now, this time round, whilst they say they have the same needs, the same aspirations, we're saying we understand those aspirations and those needs, and we have not lived up to what you had expected of us. But this time round, we have emerged from the 54th National Conference that gave us the clearest mandate on what we need to do to rebuild and to renew. We say this because the life of the ANC is intricately linked with the life of the country, and what we do in the ANC has a direct impact and bearing on what we should be doing in the state. So what we have done and are continuing to do is to correct that base, to correct that foundation, so that we have a stronger foundation, a much more durable foundation, and a foundation that can be trusted to be able to execute the task that our people want. And that is what is now different. We are now enabled, empowered, as we are rebuilding, correcting the ways of the ANC, if you like, and making sure that going forward, it then becomes a lot easier for us to do a whole number of things differently, to have leaders who will not be motivated by self-interest. And if they are motivated by self-interest, that we deal with them. Because we now have the template, we have the book, we've got the resolutions that we are now implementing. We will have leaders who will have been properly appointed and chosen. It is no longer going to be the most popular, the one who can sing the best and who can dance the best and so forth. It is going to be a leader who will demonstrate that they are prepared and willing to serve the interests of our people. Now, armed with that, having stabilized and strengthened the base, we are then able to have all the wherewithal and the instruments to be able to serve our people better. And that is where leaders go wrong, we'll be able to take action against them. Without any equivocation, without any hesitation, because we'll say, here's the rule book, here's the template, you may not and you cannot be acting in the way of the past. So with that, I'd like to believe that our people will see that the ANC, as we say, is, if you like, deadly serious, really seriously serious about addressing the needs of our people. And of course, we will be going through the various hopes and aspirations. Yes, better service, which we will put ourselves to with all the energy and the determination. And we will make sure that there is no wastage of funds that are diverted, as I was saying, because that base is now strengthened. It dictates that we should spend the money that belongs to the people properly without self-serving appointees who are only going to try and line their own pockets. And through that, we will then be able to see an improvement in the audits by the Auditor General. And you say, why don't we learn from the past? What has happened in the past? Yes, that may well have been the case in the past. We are emerging from a past that we are not proud of, a past that defined us in a way that we are not pleased with or happy with. We are now moving into a new era, a new dawn, as we've called it. This is now what defines it. And it's now becoming much more definitive that we are moving into a new era, and what has happened in the past is what we now have to be learning from, that we should not be repeating what happened in the past. So that's what I would say. And what enables us to be able to do that, we also now have structures that are going to be, if you like, watchdogs, that are going to, within the ANC, made up of people who are not in the decision-making structures, like the Integrity Commission. They are going to be watching every space. If anybody transgresses any rule, they are able to call them, come in account, and they are able to decide, to come up with a recommendation, which we will need to uphold. The delay, for instance, in the Zondo Commission is given rise to by the way the workload has been quite heavy, I would say, on the Zondo Commission, on the judge himself. It's not intentional, it's not out of negligence, it's much more about both the objective and subjective conditions that they have to work under. It's been the most rigorous process that we've gone through over the past 3 years, and for them to have gone to ask for another period to finish their report, I thought the court decided well to grant them the time. I also look forward to the receipt of their report. As it is now, it will come at the end of the year, and we will then be able to see what the judge will have come up with, and implementation will then ensue. Thank you.
President, final question for you before I hand over to another broadcaster. Just after everything you've said, you've come across as a leader who consults, who follows process, sometimes to the frustration of many South Africans who say, why you're not acting decisively. With this new way you're expressing going forward after the local government elections, when you look back now, do you sometimes regret that you follow process too much? That sometimes we should just crack the whip and get the right governance thing to be done and call for accountability immediately. Thank you.
No, I don't regret. I don't regret having followed process. Following process quite often yields better results than being too quick to act and too quick to a point where you don't follow process and you find that you have actually made mistakes in the course. And I know that many South Africans are impatient, they want quick action, and they want things to be done immediately, and I've always taken the approach that we need to follow due process, and sometimes it is due process, sometimes it is a process I inspire, and that let's follow that and ensure that there is a broad consensus. Whenever, Dan, I must tell you, whenever I have acted without following process, the very people who are impatient about me not following process are the very first to complain that, no, you did not consult us, you did not inform us about this. So in the end, it's a catch-22 situation. You do, you are damned. You don't, you are also damned. So I've chosen to follow my own path, and I know it is a frustrating path, but it is often the right path.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. President. Mzwande Lembeji from the SABC. I think the first question is, fortunately, I've had the opportunity of attending many of your, as the ANC, many of your conferences, manifesto launches. The manifesto launch that you delivered, speaking about mistakes, it sounded like something that I've heard before. You've spoken about we've made mistakes, and then here we are, 2021, we've made mistakes. And then the question is, when are you correcting those mistakes? Because you clearly know that you have made mistakes. Do you think you have capable people to run the program? Just a quick example that I think all of us here can attest. You know, when we leave this house, Mr. President, to go to our places, so there will be dark lights, there will be potholes, there will be, in some areas, there will be sewage on the road. And that is the function of local government. And you have been in power here. So do you think you deserve to be given another chance if your party can't do the basics? Because that's all South Africans want, is the basics. Do you think you deserve to be given a chance? And Mr. President, yes, you are here as President of the ANC, but of course, we can't remove the fact that you are the President of the country as well. So we will also ask some of the questions related to that. On the 11th of October, the Chief Justice is retiring. You have set the process in motion to get the new Chief Justice. So the question that many South Africans are asking is, the Constitution is quite clear. You have the power and the right to appoint, but you've decided to outsource it to other people. Are you afraid, or you want, when perhaps things don't go right, you say, well, it was not my choice, it was our choice, when we as a nation have given you the responsibility as the President of the country? So I'll do a follow-up quickly. I don't want our questions to be lost. Thank you.
Thank you, Zwai. We have spoken about the mistakes we have made in the past. You're absolutely right. And we did so in the last local government elections. And so did we in 2019 in the national elections. And in the 2019 local national elections, we were involved in a process of change, a process of buttoning down the resolutions that we took at Nasrec. And there's been contestation in the organization about the implementation of the resolutions that have to do with the integrity of the ANC. There was contestation, as there often is in various and many other parties. You'll find that people differ about the manner in which they should, resolutions should be implemented. And it so happens that in our case, on this very important resolution that has to deal with the soul of the ANC, there was contestation, there were differences, so it took us time, even after the 2019 elections. Having taken us time, we were painstakingly trying to make sure that there is broad acceptance, but more importantly, implementation of that resolution. So the resolution that I see as the real foundation about the soul and the integrity of the ANC has now been bedded, accepted, implemented. And we've now set the scene for it to be implemented all around. Now, that has a bearing. That has a bearing on what we've been saying we've made mistakes on, because many of the mistakes have had to deal with the people that we deployed. The people who, some of whom were self-serving, some of them were forgetting that they were appointed to serve the people of our country. So now we have drawn a clear line of departure from that past. We did say that we are drawing a clear line in the sand. Now that line has been drawn in the sand, and the issue of integrity, serving our people with integrity, with full commitment, not on a self-serving basis, has now been accepted. It is now the law in the African National Congress, and it's now being implemented. Its implementation then leads us to a point where we are now able to address these other issues of deploying the right people. And that's the question that you asked, do we have the right people? We are now saying, yes, we are going to deploy the right people. We are going to go through a process, as I said in the beginning, that will have been properly vetted, properly chosen, properly interviewed, and we are no longer just going to be accepting names from our structures and expected to appoint the very first one who would ordinarily have been their favorite. So we are now going to go through that process of ensuring that we've got the right people who we will be sure will do the work that they will have been appointed for. And that is where the difference is going to come. Because everything in the end is about people. We know that. If the wrong people are deployed in a particular institution, all things can go wrong. But if the right people are deployed and we have the right policies, which we have by the bucket load, we will be able to have those policies implemented, and we will also get those people to work together with others so that we are then able to address the needs of our people. In the end, it is about addressing the needs of our people. So, yes, in the past, we've said more or less the same thing, but now we have renewed ourselves, and we are in the process of continuing to renew ourselves. We are rebuilding the African National Congress, and moving forward, we are more sure now than possibly in the past that we are going to emerge with an ANC that is rebuilt, renewed, and committed to serving the interests of our people. Now, those will be the basics that we are going to rely on to enable us to serve the people of South Africa. Now, you talk about the Chief Justice issue. Yes, we are going to have a Chief Justice. What I sought to do is, with the Chief Justice position, is exactly what I did with the appointment of the NDPP, the National Prosecuting Agency Authority Director. I did exactly the same thing. I chose a panel, they interviewed, they gave me names, I then appointed. The appointment of the Chief Justice is done by the President. But in doing so, I have to follow a particular process. All what I've done now is I've said I want to open the selection and appoint a panel of eminent South Africans who are well-versed in legal matters and so on, and also community matters. They come up with names, and the names are then names that they are given to me. Rather than for me to have chosen Mzwai as the next Chief Justice from nowhere, I'm departing from that. And I'm saying, let a panel do that initial process. I then will take the names to the Judicial Services Commission, and they will then do the interviewing. And having done so, in the end, the Constitution empowers me as President to make a choice of the Chief Justice. I have not outsourced that. I have not outsourced anything. In fact, if you like, I've insourced the process of selection and have asked people to come up with a list. As it is now, we've got a few names that have come forward that will be published. And the public of South Africa has an interest in who is the next Chief Justice, much as the President has the right, the authority, and the way we thought to appoint the next Chief Justice. So you wait and see until I appoint the next Chief Justice.
Just a quick follow-up, Mr. President. As I said, we'll use this opportunity to ask for questions. As the head of state, I think the issue of the COVID-19, we seem to be perhaps doing pretty well in terms of controlling it, though we are still high. But here is the question. Other countries out there think we're not doing enough. For example, one of our biggest trading partners, UK, has blacklisted us, or they call it we are on the red list. So are we going to reciprocate by doing the same? Because clearly some of the countries that they are allowing, so maybe worse than us. So are we going to take action to reciprocate, or we just do maybe engage with them? On the other things, President, Okay. Okay, sorry. So I was just talking. Fortunately, you were hearing me, Mr. President.
Yes, I was.
Yes. No, I'm saying on the issue of the time. I think when you started in 2018, I remember you caught all of us by surprise because we thought the ANC January 8th statement was going to start late, but you started promptly on time. We have seen a regress from that. In fact, this press briefing is supposed to have started at 6, Mr. President, and then our scheduling has just been disrupted. Those are the basics. If we are not getting the basics, I know it may seem perhaps as something that is innocuous, but if we are not getting the basics right, Mr. President, how are we going to be able to get that which is big? Thanks.
So I'm glad to know that you are a stickler for timekeeping, and we were just 5 minutes or so late, and I apologize to you because I was engrossed in another function and still had to drive to come here. So my apologies, and I'll now know that you are a stickler for time and make sure that the schoolmaster is waiting for processes to start. So thank you, schoolmaster. We'll make sure we start everything on time. But you have seen that we've since improved a great deal when we do addresses to the nation. It's on the dot with you there. So that's great. So the basics are being adhered to. On the issue of the UK putting us on a red list, I think this is a most unfortunate situation that we've been subjected to. It is, I understand, being done by their own scientists, less done by politicians, but by their own scientists who have been tracking the whole world, looking at the incidence of infections around the world. So they also put us on their radar screen. And the concern that I'm told they had or have is that the beta variant, which we also had at the time, which does not sort of respond well to the vaccines that they are using, they thought that the beta variant had continued to mutate in South Africa, and yet that is completely untrue. The beta variant has actually virtually disappeared in South Africa. I say virtually because I think there's still just a little bit of it. To a large extent, we only have Delta. And they felt that they couldn't take the risk. That's the information I was told. And they give consideration to this over 2 to 3 weeks. Then they put countries on their consideration list after 2 to 3 weeks, and then they then do the change. I'm due to speak to Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and we've been getting our officials to speak, and our officials have met their people, both at a political level and at a scientific level. So this is being handled. It is in process. We do not have the need to retaliate. We don't have such a need. The UK is an important trading partner to South Africa, one of the very important ones. So therefore, we don't feel the need that we should retaliate. We should rather engage. And through our engagement, we are hoping that we will find a solution. Because it is both in our interest to find a solution to this, but it was more scientifically driven rather than politically driven. There are those in our country who are jumping up and down and thinking that there's politics behind it. There's no politics, it's just a science. And it is possible that the scientists have not been paying the close attention that they should to the developments around our management of COVID-19.
Thanks, President. So this is what we're going to do.
CNN wants to ask.
Oh, okay. So I wanted to finish. Next three.
Okay.
Okay, what we'll do is that we'll take newsroom. Then after we've taken newsroom, we'll come CakeNet, ne? So after newsroom, we'll take CNN and then we'll take CakeNet. We also have got CCTV. I forgot the China. Yes. So I'm just giving them because they are dipping in live, so they will come out by 8 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. President. It's Zianda Ngobo from Newsroom Africa. You've been speaking a lot about renewal of the organization and dealing with the corruption within municipalities, but what's endemic within those environments are the patronage networks that exist, and this is why we continuously see violence erupting ahead of local government elections. Now, I've listened to you several times speaking about dealing with this, but I'm not quite getting the detail of how you plan to deal with this without the risk of even further violence. Mr. President, in April this year, you signed into law the Political Party Funding Act, and your organization has actually said that the financial woes that they're currently facing are as a result of that. And actually last week, Treasurer General Paul Mashatile told my colleague that the ANC in Parliament would be pushing to have the amounts increased. Now, this surely will undo, I should say, the transparency that you claim your government will be bringing. It would also be remiss of me, Mr. President, to ask you in your capacity as State President, of course, about the report that you released today on digital vibes. You have continuously said that you want to deal with corruption, Mr. President, but one of the criticisms here is that you actually took too long to actually you actually did not even fire Dr. Zweli Mkhize. You had to have a meeting with him just hours before your cabinet reshuffle, before there was any action taken. My question is, while you may want to oversee legal process, the ANC always claims political morality. Where was the political morality of the ANC in dealing with Dr. Zweli Mkhize when he was overseeing corruption as per that SIU report, which could have cost lives? I may have a follow-up, Pule.
You want me to go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yes, Zianda, thank you very much for your questions. Yes, we have had to deal with challenges of corruption at local government level. And may I say, it's not only at that level where corruption resides, it also resides in corporates, in companies, as well as in other national entities as well. What we've been engaged in is rooting out corruption and correcting the ways of the past. And we can say, as I said earlier, that we've been repositioning public institutions. Even our SOE companies are being repositioned. They were a seedbed of corruption in the past, and that has now been turned around, and it's continuously being turned around. Now, dealing with corruption and things like patronage networks is a process. We never thought that it's going to be a one-day event because those who engage in these networks of patronage and corruption, they know very well how to hide their malfeasance. They hide it all, and you can never really see it optically. You've got to either investigate, and someone has to make a mistake somewhere along the line, and then you find a trail of corrupt activities. So it is a process, and we are saying, though, that where we find it, we will deal with it. And yes, there is always the danger that those who want to protect those corrupt networks or patronage networks will use violence. That is a reality that we've got to deal with, and I guess it happens in many other places in the world. But we've got to confront that and deal with even those who engage in violence to protect their turf, because in the end, when these people who are used to corrupt activities, when you take the bread out of their mouths, they will fight back. As one of our NEC members said, in the end, those who have been involved in either state capture or corrupt activities, they are going to fight back. They are not going to lie down and just say, yes, you may change the way we've been doing things or get us dealt with in terms of the law. They will fight back. And so our task is to take them on and make sure that we do root out these patronage networks and corruption. So that is our task. That is what we are committed to doing. With regard to the Political Funding Act, yes, the TG as the Treasurer General, and I'd like to whisper to you that he's not the only Treasurer General who's feeling the heat of no longer having sufficient funding to support the work of his organization. Parliamentarians, out of their wisdom or lack thereof, they limited what could be donated.